Hi, I'm Mark Harding for Beyond the Fairways magazine, and I'm here at Metropolitan Golf Course in Melbourne with Simon Majdulski, the Director of Rules and Handicapping at Golf Australia. And Simon, we're here to talk about Golf Australia's new handicap system, and in particular the daily scratch rating.
Yeah, Mark, good to be with you. Good to be with you, and it's a difficult day here at Metropolitan today, so it's probably a good one to be speaking about DSR.
Well, on a day like this at the moment, it would be really tough conditions, but in the future, under the new handicap system, maybe things will be a little kinder.
Yeah, Mark, that's absolutely correct. Under the current system, when you play a round of golf and it gets handicapped against a scratch rating which has been rated under normal conditions. On a day like today, you'll return a score, and it's very difficult to play against that rating that's been assessed under normal conditions, because these just aren't normal conditions.
Do you feel that when the conditions are tough, it does tend to turn golfers away from playing?
Yeah, look, we used to have a rating system whereby the rating would vary from day to day. And when we removed that from the handicap system several years ago, we got feedback from some golfers that they would just refuse to go out and play on days such as today because of the negative impact it would have on their handicap. So
we all know that golfing conditions vary from day to day, but how often does the scratch rating not reflect the conditions of the day?
Yeah, as we say, the rating that's provided by the raters is under normal conditions. Now, we've performed statistical analysis around this, and the actual conditions on the day actually only align with the static scratch rating on 33% of occasions. So on the other 2/3 of occasions, when golfers are going out and playing, they're playing against a rating that's inaccurate. And if you play against an inaccurate rating, that'll make your handicap inaccurate.
So this system sounds a little similar to the old CCR that used to be in operation. Is it much the same, or is it more superior? Or?
Yeah, look, CCR was introduced over 20 years ago, and it was designed at a time when the rating system the daily rating system had to be very simple to implement, and it was just simply the 12.5% score. Computers weren't in common operation at clubs back then. Computers are now, and we can get a lot more sophisticated with the way that we analyse scores on the day. And that's what DSR will do. DSR will perform a much more sophisticated statistical analysis of the scores, and as a result, it'll come up with a rating that's far closer to the true conditions of the day.
The CCR did have its failings, particularly for some groups and some places.
Yeah, that's right. As I say, CCR was around at a time when the mathematics had to be very simple. It had to be manually applied by every club across Australia. As a result, that 12.5% calculation, it worked well for some, but for a lot of other fields, it didn't have the sophistication behind it to come up with accurate ratings. It didn't come up with particularly accurate ratings for a lot of women's fields. Also for smaller country fields, we got a lot of feedback that it didn't work very well for them.
So who actually has designed the DSR?
What we did was we got some professional statisticians together. We put them in a room with some very experienced golf administrators, and we asked them to come up with a system that would align with the way golf actually works, that would avoid the problems that we had with CCR, and that would actually calculate ratings that would very closely align with the true difficulty on any given day.
So in your experience, Simon, what sort of things do impact on scores on a day-to-day basis?
Well, we've already spoken about the wind and the rain today making things harder at Metropolitan, but hole placements, when the course superintendent sticks them away in the corners, that makes conditions a lot harder. When the greens are running faster, that makes conditions significantly harder. When greens are a lot firmer, that also makes conditions a lot more difficult. So it's not just about the weather, it's also about the way that the course is set up.
Okay, so how will the DSR be calculated and determined?
Under DSR, what will happen is that the club will just process the scores from a competition through GolfLink. Those scores will go into the GolfLink computer. GolfLink will calculate an average handicap for the field. It will also determine whether the players were male or female, and it will determine whether or not the competition was played as a Stableford par or a stroke. It will then compare the results from that precise field combination with millions of prior results in the GolfLink database. And if the scores on the day were better than you would expect, then that will indicate that the conditions were easier than normal, so the rating will be a little bit lower. If the scores were a little bit worse on the day than you would expect, then that will indicate that the conditions on the day were actually harder than normal, so the rating will go a little bit higher.
So talking of what we can expect then, what can we expect with handicaps overall? Do we think that they'll change much from currently?
Well, what happens under the current system is that handicaps tend to go out a little bit in winter, and that's because the scores are being compared against ratings that are artificially lower than they should be. Handicaps then decrease in summer because they're being compared against ratings that are artificially higher than they should be. So handicaps at the moment tend to float with the seasons. When DSR comes in, scores on every day will actually be compared against the true difficulty of the course. As a result of that, rather than handicaps going up and down through the seasons, they'll just stay flat from season to season. So handicaps will be a lot more static.
So that will probably have an impact on the number of anchored players.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, we get a lot of feedback from some players who get stuck on their anchor, and they're primarily being stuck on their anchor because their handicaps will float with the seasons. When DSR comes in, handicaps will stay a lot more static, and all of the statistical modelling that we've done suggests that there will just be far less anchored players as a result of DSR being implemented.
So we're looking at quite an exciting equitable system. If people want to learn more about it, they go to the Golf Australia website, and it all happens on January 23, 2014.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct, Mark. And if you want more information about slope or any component of the GA handicap system, it's all available from the Golf Australia website, which is golf.org.au.
Thank you, Simon.
Mark, thank you.